the Democrats were smart enough to pick 10 corrupt cities to play their game out. 10 cities in which they could get away with it. 10 cities in which they could go into court and find a hack judge that will decide anything they want. So, I mean, we can live in this strange world all we want, but we're getting at the point where our freedoms are beginning to be eroded. Our right of free speech has been eroded substantially by the censorship imposed by big tech, big media, big corporations, and the Democrat Party. Our right of freedom of religion, with the ridiculous dictatorial way in which the COVID regulations are imposed on us, like they like to be dictators, these Democrat governors. They're taking away our right of the freedom of religion. And I would do everything in my power to make sure it never happened again. You can't tell me that your credibility is better than the credibility of those people. They swore under oath. You didn't. Just like you, they don't want to know the truth. Well, you probably know the truth. I'm worried about their not wanting to know the truth.
Representative C.A. Johnson.
Here, sir,
Representative
because our elected...
I'm sorry, you're out of order, Representative. You're out of order. You're out of order. You don't have a question. You're out of order. Representative, you're out of order. You're out of order, Representative. You're out of order, ma'am. You're out of order, Representative. Representative, as we examine our state's election system and work to reestablish trust, I feel strongly that our democracy depends on discussions like the one we're about to have today. With that, I'd like to welcome up Mr. Giuliani and Janet Ellis, the attorneys for President Trump. Yeah, that's right. There's one there, and I think there's wherever you want to sit.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on. You have a point of order?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Point of order.
I would like to ask Mr. Giuliani to please stand and raise your right hand to please be sworn before this committee. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, it is. Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. Under the law, I have the right before this committee as a representative to swear any witness before this committee to uphold the law. That is my right it's my right as a representative. Mr. Chair, I appeal the rule of the chair, and I'd like to ask the committee to please take a vote on this ruling, because it is my right as a representative to make sure that anybody before this committee is truthful, and we have the right as members to swear anybody.
Right, then let's call the roll.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. A motion to swear a witness in requires a vote of this committee.
No, it does not.
All right, we're gonna go to these.
That you take back that power, and that you spend the time, not just to listen to, you shouldn't decide anything based on what I gave you. It's just a sample. It's just a sample of things. There's a plethora of evidence that you can go through that will convince you that this election was stolen. I would ask you to go through that. We all know it's a lie. We know the figures there aren't correct. They're such wonderful public servants, they put their name on a lie. They have the courage to prosecute the people who committed the fraud. You don't end fraud by prospective measures to deal with fraud. You know how you end fraud? You put criminals in jail. That's how you end fraud. And you heard the anger and the upset of your citizens. They seem to have more passion about it than you do. They figured out what happens because they live on the street. They know what happens in Detroit. And I would never certify an election or have my name associated with anything that was false. Now, it is your responsibility to do that. Not the governor, not the Secretary of State. You were given that responsibility by our founding fathers. They decided who would be the final arbiter, who should overlook a presidential election. And in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2, the power is given to you. In the McPherson case in 1892, the United States Supreme Court made clear that you can take that power back any time you want to. Anytime. You can take it back tonight. You can take it back the day before the electors go down to Washington. You can take it back any time.